Hello everyone, welcome to Skilled Inspirational Academy. Okay, and today I am gonna discuss few Palo Alto interview question and answers. So this is your session number 2. Okay, in this particular session, what I am covering, I will cover your mainly three questions. First one is your question number 9, which is what is anti-spyware, antivirus, and vulnerability protection. What is the concept of pre-net and post-net in Palo Alto when we write our security rules? The question number 11 is what is zone protection and what is DOS protection in your Palo Alto firewall. In first session, I have covered these. I have covered till question number 8, right? So now in this session number 2, I will cover these three questions. Okay. Okay. So if you want to understand what is anti-spyware, what is antivirus, and what is IPS protection profile. So generally, if you have heard the name, which is IPS, intrusion prevention system, right? If you need a IPS functionality on your firewall, for that you have to basically use all these three features. And if you want to enable these three features in your Palo Alto, you need a threat prevention license for that. Okay. If I'll go into my firewall here into objects. So in our object test, you will see our security profiles tab, right? In this security profiles tab, I am having virus, anti-spyware, and vulnerability protection, right? These are the three profiles which we have to configure, right? So this antivirus profile basically we use if, let's say we are having our Palo Alto device, we are having some server in outside, and we are having few PC, right? Maybe this PC is accessing this server, maybe he's downloading some file, right? If this file content any kind of virus, and when this particular file downloading is happening through your Palo Alto file, right? So if that file contain this virus detect by the Palo Alto firewall, if it will only able to detect if we have configured the antivirus security profiles in our Palo Alto firewall, right? So whenever my Palo Alto file receives a packet, what it will send this packet through your content identification. So the thing is, all these particular antivirus, anti-spyware, and vulnerability protection, these security profiles is basically a part of your content identification. And in content identification, my Palo Alto firewall basically scan the traffic against the threats, malwares. How it will do that? What when it will receive a packet, what it will just use the protocol decoders. It will decode the code, and after that, it will just match this particular decoded, or we can say this particular payload through the different signature database. So like my Palo Alto firewall have a signature database for antivirus, signature database for anti-spyware, and signature database for vulnerability protection, right? If you want to see these databases, what, let me just go to into vulnerabilities. So by default in your Palo Alto device, you will get a two default security profiles. First one is strict and second one is default profile, right? In strict, generally if you are deploying your firewall in first go, that time we always configure that default vulnerability protection profile. Okay. And let's say we are doing POC. In that, in case of POC also, we will always use the default profiles. When we will configure this default profile, we will get some kind of logs. Maybe we will put them in 15 days into this default mode, and after that, when we collect the data and all, and after that we will go for the strict kind of vulnerability protection profile. Okay, so let me just go into this default one. Exception, if I'll click on this one, so signature, it will give you all the signatures with regards to your vulnerability protection. If I type here like Cisco, you will get all this, like Cisco is any connect having this particular vulnerability, right? So if some hacker is trying to exploit that vulnerability from the outside to your internal devices, in that case, if you have a vulnerability protection profile enabled, that particular signature will triggered and it will basically protect you from that particular attack, right? So all these kind of attacks and other stuff is taken care by this vulnerability protection if any hacker is trying to exploit any vulnerability. We also have a like anti-spyware profile where we have a default and strict, right? If I'll go into strict, so the thing is it will protect from the spywares, right? So when we open any kind of browser, right, or any kind of website from where we want to download few softwares and all, right? So the thing is that time you have seen there are so many softwares kind of stuff you will see, right? And when you click on download of this file, these software will also automatically download it. These softwares is known as spywares. So some kind of adwares and all are a kind of spyware, and when any spyware is installed in the internal PC, what it will do, it will try to send the information of your network to the outside network, to the outside server or to the hacker machine. Okay, so if you want a protection from spyware, you have to configure your anti-spyware protection profile. Okay, we also have like antivirus. This antivirus bill basically generally help us with the antivirus. So let's suppose if we are using http or https or smtp or imap or pop3 ftp or smb, if we are using these particular protocols for exchanging any kind of files, maybe in email someone has attached some file, right? In that scenario, basically if we want a protection from virus, if that file having any kind of virus inside it, that time we need this particular anti spyware, or that time we need an antivirus profile, guys. Okay, so if you see here, for http connection and for http2 connection, we are having action is reset both client and server, right? But in case of snmp, action is alert, because generally in case of mail we will not set the action deny, because if I'll set the action deny and my mail will not deliver to the system, that time what, my mail server will keep sending these mails. So that's why we will put the action as a alert action, guys, in case of emails. So like snmp, imap and pop3, we always set the action alert. Otherwise this mail server keeps sending this mail, and it will basically choke your bandwidth, right? So we have to take care when we will create. That's why I'll always prefer to go with the default signature. And for ftp and smb, we have action is reset client and server both. Okay, this is for the exception if you want to add any kind of exception. So these are the something with respect to your protection, which is like your anti spyware, antivirus, and vulnerability protection. So we have these profiles. If I'll go to into my policies and I have to call these profiles, I'll go to into this rule to actions, and this is the place where I will have to call all these particular profiles, right? So I will select profiles. So if I want an antivirus feature, I will select a default profile. I need a vulnerability protection, I'll select this one. Anti-spyware, I will check this one. Means I am associating this profile with this particular rule. Okay. So if this rule hits any traffic, that time my profiles also will trigger, and that traffic will basically match against these particular security profiles. Okay. So that is your anti spyware, antivirus, and vulnerability protection profiles, and these are your layer 7 functionality, guys. Okay, and this functionality is also known as like ips functionality. If you want, these are the different kind of basically attacks in the network. Like if you want a protection from spyware or a keylogger, okay, or any kind of worms, rootkits, right? Identity theft. In that scenario, you have to configure these particular security profiles for protecting our network, guys. Okay, if I'll go there into this, let me just show you few malwares. If you need a protection from like virus, in that case you need a anti virus protection profile on your file. If you need a protection from adware, spyware, in that case what you have to, you need a anti spyware protection profile, right? If you want a protection from like we can say ransomware or spam or bots, these is also some kind of we can say viruses. So we need that kind of we can say one these kind of features. If you need a protection of worms and all, in that case we have to configure all these particular three security profiles if we want a protection from them. Okay, now let me discuss the next question, which is what is the concept of prenet and postnet in Palo Alto? So let me tell you. So in Palo Alto firewall, so let's suppose I'll just go on top. Okay, let me just open this particular topology and I will just take the help of this topology to try to explain this scenario. So let's in this topology, I'm having my Palo Alto firewall. This is my outside interface. This is inside and this is DMZ. In DMZ, I am having these two servers, right? Now, if I want to host these servers towards the internet, in that case, what? I have to configure the net on my firewall, right? I have to configure the net and I have to configure the security policy, because people who is sitting in outside, if they want to access these servers, in that case, if I want to allow the access of these two servers, in that case, I have to configure these net and security policy. So generally, we will configure the destination net for hosting these two servers, and we have to also configure the security rules, right? So the thing is, when we write this security policy, that time we have to remember one thing. Like, so there is a concept of like prenet, and there is a concept of like postnet. So I will just write the postnet thing here. Okay. So in prenet, basically we have to take care of the IP addresses and port numbers. IP address means source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port. In postnet, basically what we have to take care of are zones, guys, which is like source zone and destination zone, because when we write our security rules on our firewall, we need to define our source zone, source IP address, destination zone, destination IP address, then port numbers, right? All these fields we need to define during that time, right? So now, so let's suppose this particular host having IP address 200.1.1.1, and he's trying to access 10.2.2.102 server. And let's suppose I'm having one public IP address, which is, let me just write here, 192.168.1.240. So on that IP address, I have configured the DNet. So if someone send the request on 192.161.240 IP, that time this request will forward by my firewall towards server 1, which is 10.2.2.102. Means I have configured the DNet, destination net. Means when request from this PC is coming to this IP address, that time that request will forward to this server. Now, because that traffic is coming from outside and going to our DMZ, so we have to open the security rules, right? So how we will open that security rules? So let me just write these details. So the thing is, let me just draw a packet diagram here. So when traffic initiated by this machine, so the source is 200.1.1.1 and destination is, let me write the destination as well, and destination IP is, so this is the source IP because packet initiated by this machine, right? Destination is 192.168.1.240. Let's suppose this is a web server hosted on port 80. And what? We have configured the DNet based port forwarding, guys. Okay. Destination net with port forwarding. So means if request coming on 192.161.240 and port number is 8080, that time that request will go to bus 10.2.2.102 and port is 80. Means this PC send the request on port 8080, this IP and port 8080, and my firewall will do the translation on 10.2.2.102 and port is 80. So here I will write source port is 1234 and destination port, let's say I will write here 8080. This is the destination port, DP. Now this packet basically received by the firewall. Now what firewall do? So this is the packet of prenet. This packet I'll give the name as prenet. and I will draw one more packet for postnet. So let me just draw another packet here. This packet is for postnet. Okay. So because the thing is, this is a destination net, right? So this source become similar, right? 200.1.1.1 source IP. Destination IP is this IP 192.161.240 will translate it on 10.2.2.102 IP. 10.2.2.102 IP. This is the destination IP. Okay. Now source port is similar. 1234. But destination net, because we have configured DNet with port forwarding, right? So means if this port translation will also happen. First this IP will translate it, and after that this port number will also translate it. So this time port become 80. So this is your destination port. Okay. Now this packet is basically a post net packet. Mean this is the packet when net has been not applied. Now this is the packet when net is applied by this firewall, and this is the actual packet received by this machine. So now when we write our security rules, now what? Now if we want to collect the source IP address details, or destination IP details, or source port details, or destination port details, then we have to basically pick, we have to get that detail from this packet. So what I can do, let me just write this detail. What I will do, I write this detail from here. Okay. So what is the source IP address here? Source IP address is 200.1.1.1, right? And destination IP is 192.168.1.240. I will get this destination from this particular packet, from the pre-net packet. Okay. Now, what is the source port? Source port is 1234, and destination port is 8080, right? Now, source zone is, we have to get the source zone from here. So source zone, so this IP address 200.1.1.1 belongs to which zone? This is in internet, which means it belongs to our outside zone, right? Because this is the interface which is outside interface. So source zone is outside. What is the destination zone? So we have to get the destination zone details from this packet. The 10.2.2.102, this IP address belongs to our DMZ zone, right? So destination is DMZ. So now when I write my security rules on my firewall, so what I will write? In source tab, I will write source traffic coming from outside. Destination zone is DMZ, because this is the internet, right? These IP address may change. So in, so what we will do, we can also take here like source as any, because in internet IP is not fixed, and source port is also not, it's not a fixed one, right? So we can also consider this is also any, right? But we want a specific rules, if that IP address of this host is also fixed, in that case we will go with that is, or we can say specific IP as well. And in destination tab we have to give this IP address. Mean when we write our rules, we have to follow this terminology. How I can do that? So what I can do, let me just go to into my Palo Alto. If I'll want to create a rule, I will create a rule like this. I'll just give the name test rule. Okay. Source is outside. Source zone is outside. Source address. So if I want to write a specific rule, then I will write this particular address, which is 200.1.1.1. Destination zone is DMZ. A destination IP address, I have to write the public IP address, which is 192.168.1.240 as per my lab. Application, so I will just go with any application. But in services, what service I have to call? I have to call a service which is TCP 8080. Means I will receive a request on TCP 8080, right? As per this diagram, I am getting a request on from outside on port number 8080, right? See, I will get the request on 8080, right? So I will just write these details there. action is allowed. So this is how I will create a rule on my firewall if I want to allow this particular communication. This is the also like this is the concept of pre-net and post-net in your Palo Alto firewall, where in pre-net we have, from the pre-net packet we will get the source IP, destination IP, source port and destination port. These details we will get the from the pre-net packet, and source zone and destination zone detail we will get the from the post net packet. Means packet after the net, or packet, this is the pre-net packet, which means packet before the net. Okay, so this is the concept of pre-net and post-net in your Palo Alto. It's become very popular, or you have to know this particular concept if you have configured the destination net and you want to allow the traffic. Then if you follow this concept, then only you will be able to write the security rules. Now let me just explain what is zone protection and what is DOS protection, guys. Okay. So the thing is, first of all, this zone protection we will apply at the zone level, at the zones. Okay. DOS protection we will basically apply at the security policy level. Okay. And if I'll talk about the packet flow of this Palo Alto firewall, so what I can do, let me just open one of the packet flow file. Let's open this one. So you will get the idea here. Okay, if you see in this particular place, if you see your connection setup state, right? So when packet reaches to your connection setup state, first of all, what it will match with your zone protection profile. First, your zone protection profile will match, then this packet go for your forwarding, or we can say routing lookup. After that, your packet go for the net lookup. After that, your packet go for the policy lookup, or this your security policy lookup. And after that, when security lookup has been completed, now your packet go for the DOS protection rules. So the thing is, first of all, you have to remember, like if you are having zone protection profile, then zone protection is always match first, and DOS protection profile is matched last after your security policy match happens. And also, so sometimes like in interview they will ask who will consume, who will which, like zone protection or DOS protection, which is the resource intensive. So you can say DOS protection is a resource intensive, because zone protection and DOS protection, they will do the same job. They will basically protect you from different kind of attacks, like SYN flood attack, ICMP flood attack, UDP flood attack, host scan attack, TCP path symmetry attack. These kind of different kind of attacks is protected by both of them. So the thing is, job of both of them is similar, but the thing is, because when those protection profile match happens, so to reach this particular match, your packet will go through your routing engine, then net engine, then security policy engine, then your DOS protection engine will come, or dot protection rules will come, right? If you are having zone protection profile, because zone protection profile hit here and it will block the packet here, right? So it zone protection is a less CPU intensive job, but DOS protection is a more CPU intensive job. Okay, that's the major difference between both of them. Now, if you want to configure zone protection, in that case, what you have to go to into your network tab, into network profiles, and you will see zone protection profile. Right here you have to create your zone protection profile, give the name outside, because let's suppose I want to apply my zone protection point outside interface, right? Outside, then I'll give some discussion. If you see here, it will protect us from the flood protection, recurrence at protection, packet based attack protection, and protocol protection. These kind of four type of protection it will provide actually. So if I'll see in, So in flood protection, if we will see sin flood attack, right? In sin flood attack, it will protect us from the sin flood attack. And in sin flood attack, we will basically have a two actions. Action is randomly drop and sin cookies, right? In sin cookies, basically when we set this particular action is sin cookies, what happens? In that case, my firewall is act as a man in the middle. So whenever any request, let's say we are having client machine, we are having Palo Alto firewall, we are having server machine, right? When this client and server do the TCP three-way handshake, right? So in that case, my Palo Alto firewall hijack this particular SYN packet or this TCP three-way handshake packets, and so that this PC establishes a TCP three-way handshake with this Palo Alto, and on the basis of this PC, my Palo Alto establishes the TCP three-way handshake with this particular server. And if we've set the action SYN cookies, which means my Palo Alto firewall only drop the packet. So for them, TCP three-way handshake will not complete. So there are few packets, right? Let's say someone have launched the SYN flood attack. In that case, he will he will send you so many SYN messages. Okay. So if your firewall detect these kind of things, in that case, it will drop these particular SYN request. Okay. So this is the like action of SYN cookies. In random early drop, what happens? We have to set three values. Alarm rate means if our system is received 10,000 connection per second from outside or inside, right? Let's suppose in and zone, right? From out in and outside zone. Let's say on this outside zone we are having two interface, Ethernet 1/2. In both these interfaces or on outside zone, if we have received like 10,000 connection per second or 10,000 session per second, in that case, my when that connection count become like 10,000 per second, in that case it will generate the alert message. So generally, when we configure these values, we have to take it generally. If our firewall is supported maybe 100 sessions, right? In that case, we always select like we will select this alarm threshold between 15 to 20% value. So we have to select, let's say 100. In case of 100 session means if connection count is around 20, in that case just generate the alert, right? So this is how we will basically set this value, but default is 10,000. Activate connection per second. So the thing is, when the connection count become 10,000, in that case it will basically activate, zone protection is activated. And when this connection count is between 10,000 and the maximum value, which is 40,000, that case what it will do, it will start dropping the packet randomly. It will start dropping the packet randomly because it is using random early drop. So it will start dropping the packet randomly. But when the connection count become more than 40,000, in that case what it will drop all the connections. So this is how your random early drop will work, guys. Okay, now we do have a like ICMP flood. So ICMP flood is also works on the basis of random early drop. Other IP is also works on the basis of random early drop. UDP flood attack is also works on the basis of random early drop. And ICMP v6, right? So if ICMP echo, in case of ICMP, we have a ICMP echo request, right? If ICMP echo request count become 10,000, more than 10,000 per second, that case, this particular zone protection profile basically activate and it will start dropping the packets. Same with the other IP packets. Same with the UDP packets. If we have a like UDP packets counts more than 10,000 per second, in that case will start dropping the UDP packets, guys. Another thing in this one is your recurrence protection. Now here we will have a three method, right? TCP port scan, host sweep, and UDP port scan. Means if someone is trying to scan your port numbers, if someone is trying to do the host sweep kind of attack or a UDP port scan, in that case also we will have action as alert. So it will basically allow, if we set the action allow, which means it will allow that TCP port scan. If we set the action is alert, which means it will generate the alert. and we can able to see that alert. If we set the accent block, it will block the connection, guys. And if we set the accent block IP, in that case, it will block what we want to block, source or destination IP address, and what is the block duration for this particular packet. So like this, we can basically set. So what I can just select here, alert. Okay. I will always use the default values. Now this is the interval. If like TCP port scan happen till 2 seconds and the event threshold is 1000 means, sorry, 100 means, if 100 times if someone is trying to do the port scan in 2 seconds, in that case it will basically consider this as a TCP port scan attack, and it will just activated the zone protection profile and block the connection. Same thing with the T host sweep and UDP port scan. Now, packet-based attack protection is also provided by the zone protection profile, where in case of IP, if you have, we are having like a spoofed IP address, means it will block from the IP spoofing attack, and it will use the routing table for checking the exact interface of source IP address. Let's suppose we are having our Palo Alto firewall here. We are having this interface having IP address 10.1.1.250 with slash 24. We are having one machine having IP 10.1.1.100, right? And now there is a one. This is outside this interface having IP 192.168.1.250, right? We are having one server. Now, if my Palo Alto firewall see one packet on this interface where source IP address is 10.1.1. maybe 100, which means my what, my Palo Alto firewall is getting the source IP one packet whose source is 10.1.100 into this interface, but in actual this source is behind this interface, right? And also generally how this TCP, how IP spoofing attack works, because my firewalls or any L3 device, they will perform the next hop lookup on the basis of destination IP in their routing tables, right? So in their routing tables, they will do the next hop lookup, right? Okay. So when we configure this spoof IP address, in that case, they will also start looking the routing table for the source IP address to see the exact BCNC interface. So if my Palo Alto Firewall look the routing table for this IP at that time, he will found this IP address behind Ethernet 1/1 interface, but he's receiving the traffic on this in that case, that's a IP spoofing attack, so it will block that packet right away. So for IP spoofing attack, it will basically use the routing table. We have a strict IP address check. In that case, what it will, my firewall will do, it will check the IP address, right? It will check the source and destination IP address always. Means sometime whatever we are having some broadcast IP address, right? 255 in the broadcast range. We are also having IP address into the multicast range, right? We are having some IP address which are reserved for some specific purpose, maybe 127.0.0.1, right? If my firewall receives a packet from these kind of IP address, in that case, it will basically block that particular traffic. So this is also known as a stack IP address check. Now the next thing is fragmented packet. So if my firewall receives a fragmented packet, and we have selected this option, in that case, my firewall basically will draw all these particular fragmented packet. It will not allow. Okay, now we also have a few options into the IP option field, right? In IP header, we will have some option field, right? In that option field, we can also put like a strict route, a strict source routing. If we are using that option, in that case, my firewall will drop the packet if we have select this option. Loose source routing, if we have that option field on the IP header, it will basically drop that packet. If we are having timestamp value on the IP header, it will drop it. If we are having record route field on the IP header, if someone have used that field on IP header, it will drop. If our IP header having any security or stream ID or a unknown or a malformed, in all these cases, my basically what will my firewall will drop the packet. Malformed means we will have some basically some issues with respect to the headers, right? Maybe in header someone have launched have a different some kind of like abnormal combination of different flags and different TC IP header fields. That is known as like IP header malformed. Okay, if you are having all these kind of steps, in that case my packet will be dropped. If you want to see the IP header optional field, just go to into Google and just type here IP header options field. If you click over there, you will get the things, what are the parameters you are having into your IP header optional field, right? So we are having like security is there, loose source routing is there, timestamp is there, extended security is there, record route is there, right? So if we are using these fields in your IP header, right? Because if you see here, IP header, it looks like this one, right? And this is the optional field. If you see here, this particular field is known as a option field. If someone is using this field, and in that field what they are using, if they are basically having all these features in their optional field, in that case my firewall will drop these particular packets. Okay, if I'll go to into TCP drop, same thing. If I receive a mismatched overlapping TCP segments, means sometimes what happens in TCP header, when we create a segment, so what happens, sometimes there are two segments, maybe they are having some similar kind of data. Maybe there is a two segments who is just covering the data of other segment, means they are these segments having similar data, right? And this kind of packets, if I receive, in that case my firewall drop that packet. A split handshake, sometimes what happens, generally TCP three-way handshake will complete into three steps, right? But sometimes if it has completed into multiple steps, not in three, maybe four or five packets they've exchanged, in that case also my firewall will drop that packet if I will use this option. TCP send with data, if I'll found in my TCP header, if I found any kind of data, in that case also my firewall drop the packet, because after TCP three-way handshake completion, client and server start exchanging the application data, right? TCP send ACK with data, if I'm my firewall see any kind of packet with the TCP send plus ACK, in TCP SYN plus ACK packet with data, then it will drop. We will also reject non-SYN TCP packet. So what happens TCP, when client and server wants to communicate over TCP, what they will do? They will first do the TCP three-way handshake, right? And TCP three-way handshake, first packet is always the SYN packet, right? If my firewall is seeing it's a first package not SYN, like maybe he's saying SYN plus ACK, or maybe he's saying push, like packet with push flag or packet with reset flag. In that scenarios, what my firewall do, it will basically reject the packets. It will only allow the TC. So we have to global, means it that setting will apply globally. Yes means now I'm just rejecting all the packets. Asymmetric path. Asymmetric path is also basically what, generally we will also have to apply asymmetric path, which is drop. In asymmetric path, what happens, it's a like illegal combination of flags. It's an illegal combination of flag. If we have that kind of things in my TCP header, it will basically drop this particular packet as well here. This you will see like non-TCP SYN messages in case of asymmetric routing. When we are having asymmetric routing, where we are having different links, so in maybe one link, on from one primary link our packet is going, from secondary link we are getting the reply. In that case, we will come across this TCP, we have to allow these kind of TCP non-TCP packets as well. Okay, so it depends on the situation. Like when we configure firewall in active environment, then that case we have to basically allow this thing. Like we have to run that command in TCP session. So if you want to configure that thing, what in the session I'll show you where we have to change. Okay, and also from the terminal if you want to change. So let me just run set device config setting session, press the question mark, you will get that option. TCP reject non-SYN. Reject non-SYN TCP packet for the session setup, right? TCP non-SYN, if you just configure yes, means we have just configured that feature. So this is the CLI way. I show you the GUI way as well. In GUI way, when we go to into setting, into device, then setup, there is a session tab where from there we have to change. Okay. Now if in our TCP header we are having TCP timestamp option, if we are using this optional field or we are using TCP fast open, if they this particular field, in that case also basically if I'll be set that action, in that case my firewall will remove these particular option fields from the data. And also just remember guys, if we are having action for SYN flood attack, which is TCP SYN cookies, that time we don't use these features. Okay. Otherwise, what it will do, if my client and server, if they are using any kind of timestamp value or any kind of optional field like maximum segment size and all, in that case we have to basically, in that case we have to configure these things properly. Otherwise, my basically what will do, my firewall remove all these optional fields. So maybe in that case data fragmentation we may required, because they will not able to negotiate the maximum segment size. Okay. So you have to remember this. Now in ICMP drop, if we receive a ICMP packet where identification value 0, means in ICMP header we are having identification value, identification field. If that field is 0, it will drop that packet. If I'm receiving the ICMP packet with the ICMP fragmented packet, so it will drop this packet. If ICMP large packet, means because ICMP packet size is very small, if we are getting a large packet more than 1024 bytes, it will drop that packet. Discard the ICMP invalid with error message. So if there is any messages who basically denotes the ICMP errors, it will drop these messages. Suppress the ICMP TTL expired error, means if I am receiving any kind of ICMP messages which is for like TTL expired this message, in that case it will suppress this particular method, means it will drop these method. If suppress ICMP fragmentation needed, means if there in that packet if they have mentioned like they have said the DF bit one, means not DF, they if they have set the MF weight, which is more fragment one, means if fragment if like in ICMP fragment is needed, right? If this kind of packet is received by my firewall, it will drop these packets. Okay. Now this is for like IPv6 and ICMP6. Now we are having protocol protection as well, where we can just write the list if we want what kind of protocol. This is that ether type, so if we want to put that include list and exclude that time, this kind of thing we can create here. So this is how we will basically create our zone protection profile, and we will go to into our interfaces into zones. And let's suppose I will go into outside zone. I will just call my zone protection profile here. This is how we will basically configure the zone protection profile. But I don't want to configure it. I just wanted to explain you here, guys. Okay. Now, DOS protection profile. If you want to deal with the DOS protection profile in this case, what you have to go to into DOS protection here. To object type into DOS protection, you have to create a DOS protection profile. So in DOS protection profile, let me just give the test DOS profile. Okay. So we will have a two types of DOS protection profile: aggregate and classified. Aggregate means, let's say I'm having Palo Alto firewall here. It is having two interfaces, Ethernet 1/1, Ethernet 1/2, right? So behind this there are few hosts, right? Behind this also there are few hosts. So the thing is, let's say I'm having here three hosts in my inside. So now all these three what they are sending the data towards outside. So if I take the method aggregate, which means it will count the session for initiated by all these three machines. This is known as aggregate, right? In classified, what happens? If we go with the classified, in that case, we can basically also write a DDoS profile on the basis of source IP. Means if we want to apply the DOS protection profile for this host only, let's say this host having IP address 10.1.100, means in that case we can also define the DOS profile for this host only. So this comes under your classified category. So I will create both the category. Okay. Synflux, same thing. UDP flood, same thing. ICMP flood, same thing. Other IP, same thing. Everything is similar, guys. Resource protection, it's a new thing. So let's suppose If we want to protect our resources, means sessions, guys, because you know, in Palo Alto, when Palo Alto process any data, it will create the session, right? It will allocate one session ID, and every device they have a some kind of limited session values, right? They have a some limited session count. So let me just set the session count here, three. Let me just set the here session count 300. If I'll go to into dashboard down, you will see I'm having session count per second, right? My Palo Alto supported this how many sessions per second, right? But the thing is, so if I'm creating this profile, then I have to basically, if I want to protect my sessions, then I can just write this one. So means if from one machine it will only allow the 300 sessions, it will not allow more than that session, because in basically DOS attack, what happens, maybe we will receive so many packets from the same source, right? So when that session count is increased more than 300, it will stop dropping these particular packets. So we can also select that option. So I have created one DOS. Let me also create for the classified test2. I'll just select a classified. All these things are similar. So these things are similar here as well. Sessions, I will get the 300. I'm just using the random number here. Okay. So I've created one test2 for classified, test DOS for the aggregate. I'll go to into policies, into DOS protection policies here. And this is the place where I have to basically apply my DDoS object. I'll give the name like rule 1. Source, I can define my source zone. I want to apply this DOS into source zone, which is outside, then source address and source user. Destination address I will define here. Destination zone is inside, traffic going towards inside or maybe towards DMZ. Options. Now here we can define the option. Deny, action is deny, allow or protect. In protect means it will basically protect you. Deny means it will allow, means it will allow, deny means it will drop the packets. We will go with the deny. We can also schedule this thing if we want to schedule. In log forwarding, we can define. In aggregate, what we can just use our aggregate DOS profile here, and we can also use the classified as well in the same rule. But in classified, we have to select this profile and we have to define our source IP address, destination IP address, or source and destination IP address both. Define source IP address only. So means it will apply for the one source only. Okay. Now I'll just go and commit. So this is how we will basically configure our zone protection profile and DOS protection profile, and that's the main difference between them. Okay. Thank you guys.